Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, hosted by Renita Ray Davis, licensed clinical social worker, board-approved social work clinical supervisor, and facilitator of the Goddesses of Social Work supervision community. Join us as we travel through the social work journeys told by the Goddesses of Social Work community members, past and present, as they make their way toward clinical licensure.
Welcome back to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis, and today's guest holds a special place in the community. She's a former goddess who has since become a licensed independent clinical social worker, and it's always meaningful to reconnect with people as they continue to grow, not just professionally, but personally. Tori, honey, darling, welcome back to the
Thank
Goddesses of
you.
Social
Thank
Work
you.
podcast.
I'm happy to be back.
Yes, you're one of my people. You're one of my people. So sorry for those meeting you for the first time, and or for those who have been fortunate enough to know and to witness your journey. I'm so glad I'm one of those. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
So I am a licensed clinical social worker, but also I am an avid gym goer, a new
Hmm.
ceramicist in the past year, a traveler, as much as I can, and someone who grew up in Alabama her entire life and decided to started doing travel social work a couple years ago, which I'm sure we'll get into today, and someone that is seeing a lot of life for the first time and learning a lot about it and learning a lot about herself too. I'm someone that's in an awesome season of life right now, and I'm really excited to share that with you all today.
I love it, and I cannot wait to hear. But first, you got to tell me. I feel like I know. It feels like it's like the context words or context clues are there, but
Hmm.
ceramicist, that's not part of the story we were going to tell. I
I
need to hear.
know it's something new I
So
wanted to
before
tell
I
you about
move
today.
on, yeah, tell me
I'll
about that.
Yeah, so summers, and I've now live in Moab, Utah, which is
Hmm.
in the desert, and I've been here since July 30 or July 29th was 2 years total. So a little over 2 years. And last summer, it was really hot. It's really hot here in the summer, and I'm pale, I have red hair, the sun eats me alive. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself? And I started feeling like I was having opposite seasonal depression. Some people have depression in the winter. I started feeling really just enclosed and isolated that summer. And I went online and talked to a friend at work that also goes to the studio here in town. And she was like, sign up for a class. I was like, that's a great idea. Signed up for a class that was like 5 or 6 days in a row, really time intensive. Ended up falling in love with throwing pottery on the wheel, and it was something tangible I could do. It felt so grounding. It's just you and the earth on a wheel, and you're creating something beautiful. And it's something that I started June last year, and now I'm a 24/7 member at the studio. I can go anytime, and I've created some cool stuff.
I love that. You know what? I was trying to find this quote because I literally got there's this dude, I think his name is George Wolf, and I can't remember who I sent the quote. Oh, here it is. Yeah. His name is Guy Wolf. Anyways,
Mhm.
like, all the ceramicists in the world. But anyway, he apparently makes pottery. And he apparently sells out and has lots of students and all this name Guy Wolf. And he one of the quotes I saw on his such a random rabbit hole I was down just a
Mhm.
couple of weeks ago was this guy named Guy Wolf. And he says, let aesthetics lead commerce.
Mhm.
Meaning, while he was making his pottery, instead of letting people tell them what they needed so that he can make sure he could sell it, right? He decided he was going to make what is beautiful, and then people could decide if they were going to buy it or not. And
I love
now
that.
Martha Stewart, it was a few years back or several years back probably, Martha Stewart gave Oprah Winfrey one of his pots, and then Oprah Winfrey and her everybody gets a car thing gave everybody one of his pots where you get a car, you get a car. Her favorite
You get a
thing
pot. You
season.
get a pot.
Yeah.
That's
And
really cool.
so
I'll have
then
to look him up.
it overwhelmed his business and he sold out. And so now he's pretty famous, pretty reputable, pretty wanted or sought out after
Really cool.
teacher of pottery and makes these beautiful pots. And he says, "Let aesthetics lead commerce." And I wrote that quote down because I thought it was such a beautiful quote. Instead of us, because I think society has taught us find out what society needs and then make that thing. Versus right now, especially me and my woo woo self. We're in Leo season right now,
Hmm.
and one of my favorite things when I am on social media is to look at all your beautiful pictures of Moab, Utah. I mean, you got people wanting to come to Utah because it looks so beautiful, but it's this find what's beautiful. You create the beauty, and then let commerce
People
lead that.
decide.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's gonna stick with me. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm glad I got to. I didn't know that was gonna. I'm glad I was able to find it really quickly because we're gonna create our beauty, and then if people want to buy it, they can buy it.
Exactly.
Is
I
and
love that.
I didn't know I was going to talk to you about this, but do you feel like that's what? Because we were just talking before we hit record, and I said, when I am on social media and I see some of your pictures of the places that you've been on all your travels, you really go viral. And do you think that is part of letting aesthetics lead commerce? Is you just are taking pictures of what you think is beautiful in your
Yeah.
travel?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because some of my things, it's not like I've got, thousands and thousands of followers and I get a lot of traction and attention all the time. It is exactly that. I post what I think is beautiful. If people find it beautiful, sometimes they click and respond and like and comment, and sometimes people don't. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really cool just to be able to share what I think is beautiful no matter what, and with the absence of feeling like I have to hit this expectation online. I just like sharing what I like, and people like it or don't. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that. So yeah, I do.
It is absolutely beautiful. And thank you for sharing your beauty. I
Yeah.
love that. And so, what has this season of your life? Because I heard you say you're in a beautiful, let's just keep going with the beauty theme. You said that you're in a beautiful season of life. So,
Yeah.
what has the season of your life been teaching you?
Um, what it's been teaching me and what I feel like I've been trying to be more intentional about is I've been calling it hobby maxing, but just trying to try new things because on top of traveling and seeing beautiful places, there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to learn about yourself. So I've tried things for the first time a lot in the past 2 years. Some things have stuck, some things haven't. So I think this season of life, what I've been learning from it the most is what I'm willing to give a shot at and what's sticking. For example, I've tried ceramics, it stuck, loved it, fell in love with it. I've been doing it for over a little over a year now. Tried mountain biking once, hated it, hated every second. I could go down rocks and things, but as soon as I had to go up and over obstacles and feel like I'm going to fall backwards. I didn't like that feeling. So I've only done that once since I've lived here, and this is a pretty big mountain biking town. But a hard place to learn mountain biking. So I think just trying and learning new things is been something that's been the season of my life since I've been in Moab. I ran my first race and I don't really like running. So I did a 10K last year, the Moab Locals 10K. I plan to do a half marathon in the spring. So just trying things that are hard that I don't necessarily like, that are also good for me and have great community, but also trying things and not liking them and not wanting to do it again, like mountain biking, or trying new things and fall in love with it and it becoming a passion. So trying new things.
I love that. I thank you so much for that because you just I was praying about something about new things this morning, and here you are talking about new things. And, I had two thoughts. I should have wrote them down, so we'll see which one sticks. Like you said,
I
one,
like it.
um, you were in my supervision community for a little bit, and I don't know if you remember me saying that I feel like I had the honor and have the honor of working with top tier social workers, like the cream of the crop social workers. And one of the things that I see with cream of crop social workers is that there feels this need to be perfect at everything. You know what I mean? Like I gotta get all A's. When I was teaching in school, people just had to get all A's or they're gonna have to come apart. And even in supervision, I get those beautiful women and they're like getting their LMSW, you gotta get the clinical, gotta, feel like they have to be just perfect in doing things. But what I hear you saying is allowing yourself to just, especially when you think about it in the context of social work, trying new things even in social work. Because one of the things I would tell some of the women, and I feel like you were part of that season where some of the girls were quitting jobs left and right,
Mm-hmm.
was like, who told you you had to stay somewhere for 2 years? If this job is not one that
Yeah,
feels good for you, it's okay to move on and try something else until you can find the job and the work, because it doesn't serve the company nor does it serve the clients if you're not enjoying that work because you feel like you have to stay with
where
something
you're
for
at.
2 years. And so allowing yourself even to fail at something, because if you're top tier cream of the crop, you think you have to just be always good at it. But if you don't like mountain biking,
I don't have to do
you
it.
don't have to do it. And especially if you're a social worker or a licensed social
Mhm.
worker, specifically if you're licensed, you don't have to stay there
Mhm.
if you feel like you're falling backwards all the
And
time.
I think that's what started my season of life with
Mm-hmm.
imperfection and just trying new things and being okay with failing is exactly what you mean. Because whenever I started doing travel social work and I started traveling and seeing beautiful things and trying new things, was exactly that. Like accepting a failed relationship, accepting a failed employment that I wasn't happy at. Um, Waking up and being like, I've spent so much time trying to be perfect and do the right thing, what I'm supposed to do per society standards and also my own standards of getting through school and supervision. I kind of hate my life right now. And then you look up and all this time that you spent trying to do the perfect thing was actually imperfect all along. And now I embrace imperfection and failure and trying new things, welcoming new things into my life because some things really stick, like they're meant to, and they have by doing that.
I love that. And the second question didn't stick. So if it decides to come back, it will.
Okay.
But this question feels similar to the original question. So we talked about, what is the season of life teaching you? And I love leaning into failure. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like leaning into being okay with not being perfect at it. I love that you said hobby maxing, finding finding a hobby and maxing it out. This wasn't the next question, but when you just said that, I thought about something, Tori. One of the other things I see with social workers I have the opportunity to mentor is they make social work their profession or their career 100% of their life. And one
Mhm.
of the things that I keep on, just it feels like in my season of life with mentoring folks, is social work is really just 10% of your life. And
Mhm.
having had almost a 30-year career and looking back on it, I wish somebody had told me that, like, don't make this everything. You have 90% of the other parts of your life. And so your intentionality of finding hobbies and not letting social work be everything, I think
Mhm.
is also something that we can get some wisdom from for you today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And
That's
being
definitely something
intentional.
I've learned too, and being
Mm-hmm.
intentional. And the 10% that is social work in our life, you can give the full 10% if you're giving the other parts and percentages to yourself. Like the
Mm-hmm.
best you that you can be to show up to such an important profession that serves others is only as good as you can serve yourself. So who are you when you walk in the door? Is it to only serve everyone else all the time? Like, when is there time for you? And if we make time for ourselves, that pours back into our work for time
Mhm.
for others. So that's
Mhm.
definitely what a season of life in the past couple of years has taught me, and what I feel like I'm starting to really grasp onto and feel good about.
Mhm. And this question feels similar, but maybe not. Okay. What do you feel like you've become more intentional about in this season of life?
I feel like I've become more intentional about myself,
Hmm.
and what decisions I make. And there's a lot of grief that comes with that. So being intentional about me, I moved away from my family. I moved away from my niece. I moved away from my best friend and her kids. I feel like I'm missing out on some things, and I really had to work with a therapist to really like process through the grief of that, because I'm choosing me and what makes me happy and what brings me joy in life, which does pour over into all the people that I miss. So I'm being intentional about myself, and there was a season of that was hard. Um, and now that I've really tried to work through that and find some grace and for myself, and also some acceptance of who I'm trying to be, instead of feeling like I'm holding myself back by all the grief I was experiencing with moving forward, being intentional about me and choosing me and trying new things and letting what lands stick, and keeping it into my life because it makes me happy and it brings me joy and fills my cup. So being intentional about myself, I feel like that's what's happening in my season of life right now.
That's so beautiful. Because one of the things that when you said grief, and we are always talking, oh, I know I am. A lot of us are often talking, or whatever your algorithm has, on your social media. It's like
Mm-hmm.
choose you, pick you, be intentional about yourself. But we don't talk about what the price is or the cost is
Mm-hmm.
about once you choose yourself, you're going to experience some grief. And that doesn't mean that this is a wrong decision. It just
Mm-hmm.
means it's something you're going to have to work out. And the fact that you
Yeah.
chose to work it out with the therapist. Can you speak to that a little bit more about,
Mm-hmm.
like, just because you choose you doesn't mean it's an easy decision. There's still a
Right.
cost that you have to pay, and it's okay to pay that cost, especially if you're doing it with some support.
Yeah, and I actually working out with my therapist, but also working with my clients here at the recovery center. We do substance use counseling, or I do here, and there is a cost to change. So when our clients come in and they're ready to quit using, or quit doing habits that aren't serving them anymore, typically that means their social circle kind of changes, or people they have to cut out of their life, there are people they have to take a break from, they have to move or change jobs. I learned from them, but also my therapist too, that whenever we decide to change, we can't expect everything else to remain the same. And we have to feel that grief for what it is, experience it, but also accept the other changes as well. As we're accepting our own change, we've got to accept the ripple effects that come from that, and also be willing to adapt in some ways. I'm not always the best about being, I like to be on my phone, but it's something I've pulled away from. Oftentimes I go places where I don't have service now, or I'm doing this or doing that, or I'm busy all day. Being intentional about what is a gift to us, like social media and FaceTime and text messages, where I can stay in touch with people from home. That's something I had to compromise on to change the way that I view and give time to these relationships that I want to continue to have, that I'm not geographically close to anymore. So I went through the grief, but also acceptance of change and acceptance of what can I do to bridge the gap of these relationships. So yeah, working with a therapist was really helpful for that.
My favorite social workers are those who have social workers or at least therapists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because how can we can only take our clients as far as we're willing to go.
Yep,
And if we're unwilling to sit on the other side of the table, how much further can we take our clients? So I
without a
appreciate
doubt.
that you speak openly about that. But
Mm-hmm.
also, one of the things I love, well, I'm going to say this. I want to acknowledge because I have known you for a few years now. I know how much you love your niece. And so for you to travel, be a travel social worker for a while there and move away and find and experience this new life that you're living, I know that was a big sacrifice for you.
Yeah.
I'm not just, I know you love the rest of your family too, but I know how much you.
I love her. Yeah, without a doubt. But another thing that the acceptance of change, the beauty that
Mhm.
comes out of it, once you accept the change, you start seeing the silver linings and the positivity in it. She is going to be, because I am in a different area and I am across the country and I'm in new places, she's going to grow up seeing a lot of the things that I've never seen before.
Mhm.
My parents brought her May before last to visit me, and she got to see real dinosaur tracks in the rocks and learn as much as she could, comprehend. Everything was wow to her. We went driving through this place called Potash Road, and she could
Mhm.
see the salt mines and, the real dinosaur tracks and different rocks and colors and people. Not that I grew up absent of that, but it was very geographically close to where I grew up. Like I went to the other southern states, but I never traveled outside of that. So it being away from her sucks, but also I'm in a place that she can come to learn and see new things, and maybe that's what was supposed to happen.
I think so. Expanding her horizons and what's possible for her as
Yep.
well. The other thing that I love that you said um, is you're learning from your clients because I think
Mhm.
sometimes we're the experts. One, I think their clients are the experts of their own lives personally,
Yeah, same.
but also that they have a lot to teach us as well. And the fact that learn, they taught you that there is a cost to change, and I'm here to help you work through that. That's my job as your therapist, is to help you work through the cost to changing
Yep.
because this is a dead end road for you, perhaps. And then you took what you were learning from them and applied it to your own life. And so not being so, I'm a licensed clinical social
Right.
worker, even though we're super proud of that, but not being, so elitist
Yeah,
that we can't learn from our clients as
without a
well.
doubt.
Hmm.
And like you said, like I can only take them as far as I'm willing to go. So helping people accept, and be willing to also change.
Hmm.
It's like I'm helping them through that. I can also accept someone to help me too. And I think that's why it's important for us to also have therapists and LCSW of our own.
Hmm. I think, you know what? I need to make sure I give credit to where I got that from. Brene Brown, one of the most famous MSWs. She's the one who said it in a TED Talk one time that her favorite social workers are those who have social workers. And
Hmm.
it's the philosophy and belief that I've taken on since I heard her say that, because I do think we need our own social worker or therapist in order for us to process stuff. So, but again, like I said, I love that you are willing to learn from your clients. My next question, Tori, is, oh, I can't wait to hear this one. Has there been, we are in Leo season, so I want to hear about something courageous that you've done. So has there
Okay.
been a decision or risk that you've taken recently that stretched you?
Wow, I feel like that there are a lot of answers for that. The most obvious one, which I think we've already touched on, is March before last. I was contract for 9 months in Moab from July until March. I think that's 9 months, 2 years ago. And that March, I decided to come on as a full-time employee, no longer contract, in Moab. So I do live here now, essentially. And accepting and making that decision March before last was probably a decision that stretched me a lot, actually. Not only did I take a pay cut to stay, but I also decided to stay because of the learning environment and how much I'm learning from my clients, my coworkers. I'm in a great environment here where I'm employed, but also being away from my family. I would say recently, we started, I go to gym on Fifth here in Moab. It's like a group style gym. And we recently opened up a lift up group is what it's called, but it's a group, a free 1 p.m. Monday group specific for our clients at the recovery center. And it's coached by Dr. Paula Cook, which is our medical director here, and myself. I co-coached it kind of. I wasn't officially a coach. I just helped her put things away, get things out, help manage the gym while she's coaching. And then the owner of the gym approached me because I'm a member at the gym too and was like, "Do you want to get certified?" And I was like, "Yeah." So now I wouldn't say that decision stretched me, but it was a decision that I kept saying no to for a long time until we opened it up to our clients. And kind of that same concept of learning, continuing to learn from them is I was like, wow, like if I accept this, it's already something that I love to do. I'm here all the time. And if I accept it, we can open up a second class on maybe Wednesdays or Thursdays. So we have 2 days a week our clients can come work out too. Um, I would say that's a decision that was stretching me for a long time until it didn't, until I could serve others in that decision, not just myself. So it was just really cool to make that decision. And then anything else that has stretched me, my mind can't get away from staying in Moab. It was a really hard decision to make, but it was one of the best decisions I've made in a really long time because becoming a coach at the gym came out of it. Staying here at the recovery center where I'm really passionate about my work came out of it. Pottery came out of it. I got certified that June after deciding to stay. Um, Trying mountain biking came out of it and hating that. Being so close to so many drivable, beautiful places, national parks, mountain ranges. I could drive and take a trip anywhere. But also, like I said, working through that grief, it was a decision that stretched me the most over the past 2 years, but I'm really, really, really glad that I made it.
Tori, wow. Like, wow. I didn't even know this.
I
This
have
is,
so many things to tell you today.
oh my God. I'm so glad I learned it with everybody else. Wow. And I wrote this time at least I wrote it down. But I want to start with where my brain is, which is the wow. Because one of the things, I mean, both, there's two things, but one of the things that I am so passionate about is bring the thing you love into social work. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially if you've been trained, and I used to teach social work, it's like this very, and I love social work, so I'm not saying in a negative way, but it's like we're taught stay within these particular bounds of social work. And the last maybe decade or so, I feel the stretch has been why do we have to keep the thing that we are passionate about separate from our profession?
Mm-hmm.
And, never. I'm talking about artists. I'm talking about people who sing and love singing. I'm talking about people who use yoga and bring in that. And now you're telling me you're a freaking coach and you
I'm
have
a
your
CrossFit level one
CrossFit.
trainer now
Wow.
too.
And
It's
your
really cool.
clients are getting to benefit from that. And you were doing it anyway. And now you get to serve your clients doing the thing that you love.
Mhm.
When you were saying that, I was just like, wow, yes, we're bringing in the thing that we love into social work. But also, every time somebody chooses to do that, we stretch. what social work can become.
Hmm.
We
And
stretch it.
I was selling myself short for so long because before this group even was, started, we started it last April or this
Mm-hmm.
past April. It was already being brought up. Like, do you want to become a coach at the gym? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really don't feel like I'm ready yet. There are some of the movements that I can't do yet because we do incorporate some gymnastic movements that are really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't quite got those down yet. I was like, I don't feel like I'm ready. I feel like I got to focus on me. I got to focus on me. I got to focus on me. And bringing the passion from our client base here and that getting incorporated at the gym just kind of lit something up for me and something I remembered. And I don't know where I got this from, probably from some movie because I love movies. But to become better at something, become the teacher. And I was like, that kind of aligns here a little bit too. This is something I'm passionate about and want to get better at. And if I bring this passion and combine it with this passion, what's going to happen from that? And it's already so beautiful. We're opening up a second class, and I'm getting better at my goals at the gym because I'm learning more about it because I'm teaching it to people that have never done it before and also people that have been doing it for way longer than I have. So there's this broad spectrum of who I'm helping, but also myself too. So making a decision of choosing something that pours into us. And like I said, I was afraid of that decision for a long time. And then when I was able to combine it with social work too, I was like, this feels right. And I did it. So I'm glad that we're starting to push those boundaries out. And I've definitely thought about how can I incorporate pottery in here too. But
Love it.
that was a
Yeah.
little harder, but we'll see.
It'll have the door will open and it will be easy. Yeah. Because right now you're like, I wanna do it, but the door is gonna open and it's gonna be like, oh, here's a door. I can walk through it.
Mhm.
Just like with the gym and social work, there was a door that had been presented
Mhm.
and you're like, no, I don't want to walk through it. And then it's just like, walk through the freaking door, Tori.
Yep. It took me a second, but I walked through it and I was like, oh, this is where I need it.
Yeah. And so then what I'm hearing is second class is happening. It's part of the work you're already doing. You're a
Mhm.
licensed clinical social worker. You're certified in CrossFit. So it's not like you're just out here, out here not being accountable. You're definitely accountable to two large bodies of professional entities, helping clients literally change their mental health and their physical health. And social work to me is about the whole client. And what an amazing way to treat the whole person.
Yeah. And that's what I do love about the community here in Moab. So many doors open for that. I don't know how people are built here, but it's a very small community. We have 5,800 residents, I think, in the county. So there's a lot of, you know, community building that's very like natural to people here, and including myself being from a small town too, that I kind of lean into it as well. And like the owner of the gym, wow, you're really gonna love this. I've got to share it now because it's on my mind. The owner of the gym, she is the one that obviously opened up the first door of opportunity for Dr. Paula Cook here, our medical director, to start the group. And then I slid into that as well. And then her fiance is a retired military, retired EMT, um, recently, and wants to become a therapist to help those professions out in his own way. And he approached me for an internship opportunity potentially as well. So the like puzzle pieces that all fell together with these decisions, all starting back to that kitchen table, finishing my supervision with you years ago, led to this and how those puzzle pieces are continuing to fall together.
Alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And you just had to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
You just had to say yes. And you know what? I don't remember her name off the bat, but I remember interviewing. But I'll send you the link to it, and I'll put it in the podcast description if somebody else wants to just go back and listen to it. But I interviewed a social worker in Pittsburgh, or I'll just say Philadelphia, Is Philadelphia the state? I always get Pennsylvania. I always get the P's confused.
Me
My
too.
teacher, my elementary, my elementary teacher will be so disappointed. I always get
We're
it.
social workers, not,
I'm a social worker, not a geographist, but she's in one of the P areas, and she was an EMT, and now she does specialized training for EMTs.
Very cool.
And in fact, what is that? Oh man, would the guy Noah, somebody, the emergency room on HBO? Uh, Forget the name of that really
Me too. The
top
pit?
tier. The Pit. Yes, thank you. Pittsburgh. She's in Pittsburgh. Okay. Anyway, but she was one of their consultants.
Cool.
Yeah, because she
That's
had.
why that show is so good and so accurate.
Yes, they got consultants for all the professionals. And so, there's a social worker on that one, and she
Mm-hmm.
has that specialized training for not just specialized training, but specialized therapeutic approach for EMTs that she got contacted to be one of their consultants. So
Consultants.
her work
Full
is
circle.
good. Yeah, really. So I'll share that with
I'll
you.
definitely love to watch that.
Yeah, and I'll share the podcast episode because maybe you'll want to reach out to her as you guys are combining that together.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, because that's growing too. Because the owner, Jim's fiance, reached out to me for the internship opportunities maybe sometime next year, and my brain just
mhm.
started like,
Yeah,
all right, what can
yeah.
we do with this? Because he has such professional knowledge already about these populations. I'm like, what can we do to serve the community in that way that incorporates him and his passions?
Mhm.
And it's just puzzle piece after puzzle piece, which is
And
fun.
and the puzzle pieces click when you're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
When even though we talked about the grief that you might experience and or the sacrifice of having to leave your family, but who
It still feels
knew?
right.
Who knew Utah? You know what I'm saying? Who
Beats
knew?
me.
Yeah. One of the things the second thing that I did remember because I wrote it down was having to make the decision. Because, here you are, you've been in Alabama doing great work, working at you were working at some cool agencies and organizations here in Alabama. It wasn't like icky work. You were doing good
Mm-hmm.
work. But when you made the decision to travel, that felt like it gave you a sense of freedom. And so to make that decision to stop traveling, because travel social work in and of itself is a community and it's
Mm-hmm.
a lifestyle. And if you can just briefly speak of the grief of losing that identity for a little bit. You want to
Oh
speak to that?
yeah, definitely. There was grief associated with that too, because I had just gotten, I believe I had just gotten licensed. I was in Colorado, so I went from Ohio to Colorado, and in Colorado, every contract would take a little bit of the money and get licensed in other states while I was in a contract, so I can kind of plan ahead for what I want to do next. I think I got licensed in the surrounding states that were surrounding Colorado, which is how Utah happened, and just for safety. And then I was like, I always would pick one or two states around the state I was in, and then I would pick states I wanted to go to. So that's how I allocated my license money out. I had just gotten licensed in like Maine and Hawaii, and I was working on Alaska at the time because those were like three states I just really wanted to go to. I don't know if it's because they're all far away or what. But I was like, those are states I wanted to experience. And so I got all those licenses in those states, and then I decided to stay. And I was like, well, crap. Like, what am I going to do with these now? Um, Unfortunately, I ended up letting the Hawaii one lapse because I didn't really have any telehealth clients from there. But yeah, there was definitely grief with I'm not going to be able to just go to these on contracts anymore. But staying here and staying a little more put, I've been able to create more opportunity to travel for fun. And so, like, grief didn't last long with those because I was like, oh, I could probably just plan to visit these places. I don't have to have contracts to visit these places. Because at first that was the truth. I wouldn't have been able to afford to visit some of these places without contracts. And even now, I wouldn't say like that's an abundance by any means, but I have the ability to plan for it. So did I have grief with that? For sure. But it didn't last long because I was like, oh, I can visit these places. I have paid time off now. You don't get that most of the time with travel. So I was like, oh, I have PTO now. So like the opportunities are still the same. They just look different.
They do. They look different. I love that. And I'm glad we spoke to that. And, because I'm a big believer, this, in multi-state licensure, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
licensed in,
I learned that from you.
yeah, I believe in multi-state licensure. I want to make sure I'm clear. I know that I haven't even heard. I don't forgot what it was called.
The, the compact
The
that started
compact.
to
I
be
don't
put
even know where
together.
we are with it right
Me
now,
neither.
but I believe in being multi-state licensed intentionally, not just because
Mm-hmm.
somebody signed a compact, but like choosing states like what you talked about
Yep.
intentionally to because you either want to visit or there's clients there you want to serve. So for me, I'm licensed in Idaho and in Colorado and in Arizona, Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
um, Florida, Louisiana, and Alabama. Obviously, the southern states because I visit those, but then these other states was because I wanted to be, I wanted clients have access to people who look like them.
Mm-hmm.
That was my
Yep.
intention. My intention. But hearing you say, okay, now what am I going to do with these, licenses I got? Uh,
I did do something with
you
some of
still
them.
can do something with it. I just want
Yep.
to make sure you
So
know that.
some of the ones, I decided not to re-up in Hawaii just because it is expensive.
Yeah.
I put out into the world, I kind of started like not like a small private practice, but just like a small online telehealth. Because I think it is important. What I've learned with traveling is meeting other people and learning new perspectives. COVID sucked, but what it did open the opportunity for telehealth is, I'm from Alabama. I now live in Utah, but I have a telehealth client that lives in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And although we didn't grow up the same or in the same areas, or even, geographically, economically, or even around the same type of people, this client, I'm able to learn from them for what's, appropriate, and they're able to learn from me. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a client in Maine and I have a client in Ohio. So I kind of opened up the opportunity of, well, even though I can't physically visit Maine, and I did contracts in Ohio, what am I going to do with these licenses now? And now I serve clients in some of those areas, and that's been really cool.
And I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think it's important, and I'm glad that you kept those licenses. And I totally understand the Hawaii one because even their time zone difference
Yeah.
makes it a little bit difficult because
Yep.
I've had a couple of the goddesses get licensed in
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii and they've said the time zones make it
Make
a
it really
little,
hard.
yeah, make it
Yeah.
hard. So I hope though, I think people are still getting licensed in Hawaii. It is
Mm-hmm.
expensive,
Mm-hmm.
but those clients are going to get what they need. But I love that you're keeping your other licenses, and I even hope as get roots in Utah that you still consider some other licenses as well.
Yeah, I think I will. It's something that's been on my mind, so I'll definitely keep
Hmm.
you posted on that.
Yes, it
I've
be.
re-upped all of them except for Idaho and Hawaii. And
Hmm.
that's just in the first year of, kind of starting telehealth, and seeing clients on my own. Those are just two states I didn't get really a whole lot of or any clients from actually. So that's the reason why I decided not to renew those. But I'll
And when
definitely.
I renewed in Idaho, I think I've had my Idaho license maybe 3 years. So the first year,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would. But for whatever reason, when I redid it this last time, which I think was last year, it was a little expensive. So having these licenses, you got to think of the cost. But and is it worth? Are you getting your return on investment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And return on investment, and also, if I'm not serving a client there, it's just kind of floating
Mm-hmm.
around,
You're not getting your return on investment.
Yep. In any
You're
way,
not
shape, or form.
at
So,
all. Yes,
yeah.
yes. I do have several. I think gratefully have several Idaho clients, and I love my clients in Idaho. So, you know, talking about that, like building, you have these licenses, you have the small private practice, small but growing is always what I like to say. Private practice, you have the second class at the gym and stretching what social work looks like. What do you feel like you're building right now, not just professionally, but personally?
Personally, I feel like like I said earlier, I feel like I'm building myself. You know, not shaming Alabama by any means, but
Mm-hmm.
there's just a lot of cultural expectation for women, especially, um, that I can speak on and other women can speak on that I just don't fit that mold necessarily. When I come back home and I visit, there are opportunities and conversations of like, you're 31 years old and you're not married and you don't have kids. And I'm like, yeah, I chose that. I
Yeah,
chose that
yeah.
specifically. And
Mm-hmm.
not to say that those things will never happen or I'm against those or not against those. It's just not for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, just making the choices that fuel me and fill my cup, that's going to help lead me to like my passion and my purpose in life. And I'm finding that by trying new things, involving myself in what feels like a value to someone else's time as well as mine. Being able to say no. I've said no to plenty of things that aren't on my list right now. So when I think about all the things I'm doing, I'm like, damn, that's a lot. But then I'm like, there are things I've said no to. So I'm also creating boundaries and saying no to things as well as I'm saying yes to things. So what I'm building personally is who I want to be and the value I want out of life and staying healthy through that. And also what I'm pouring into myself, I want to pour into others as well through being a social worker, being a coach at the gym, being just a member of a studio. I don't do anything special at the ceramics studio, but just show up and be myself and create things and get to see what other people are creating and just showing up as me. And that's not always as my best self, but it is the self that I'm building.
Mm-hmm.
So pouring into me is what I'm building and doing personally for myself right now, and it's been great, and it's poured over positively into all the relationships and people I miss from home too, because
Yeah.
they're seeing that too, and being able to be that person that shows up for them in the best way that we can has also been something I'm building personally for myself right now, as well as them too.
And like you said, your niece gets to see it and you're
Hmm.
modeling that for her, you know?
I FaceTimed her yesterday. She had her first day of preschool yesterday,
Oh.
and I gave her a tour of my office because I hadn't FaceTimed her from in here. She'd been in here when she was 3 years old. She don't remember it. And so I gave her my tour and she saw my plants. She told me she made new friends and
Mm-hmm.
she did remember the dinosaur tracks though. She won't forget those.
That's good.
She won't
That's
forget
good.
those. But yeah, like just her being able to see all these things too, even if it's from afar or on a screen. She realizes it and it's just been really cool to share those things with her too.
I love that. And I want to go back to something you about, you said I have said no. One of the phrases, and I do not know where it came from, it just came this week. And I may have read it or saw it, or, we're always learning. So I
Hmm.
wish I could give whoever it came, it might have just came from spirit. But what I've been calling it is professional discernment.
Hmm.
And one of the things that, before we hit record, I was telling you I had made a commitment to an organization and was doing this commitment for a couple of months and then realized, I love what the the CEO is doing, love the vision she has, but just because she has a vision doesn't mean that I have to be a part of
Hmm.
that. And being able to have professional discernment, like, oh, this agency organization or this cause is doing great work over here, but and yes, I could add value to that, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be over there doing that.
Right. And one of
Mm-hmm.
those things I said no to is something similar. A really awesome community agency in town asked me to be on their board, and I said no to
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, they're doing great things. They're building new things. They wanted me to help with programming,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't something that fit into my life right now. And if you overfill your cup, it's gonna spill.
That part.
And that would have overfilled, and I would have not been able to be my best self in all the things that I've chosen to say yes to. And not saying that I wouldn't be able to help them in the future. It's just not right now. And I had to say no to that. So, same thing.
But I want to say this. So, we talked about social work maybe being 10% of the pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have 90% to fill with hobby maxing and, niece FaceTiming and all this other stuff, right? But just because you have 90% to fill doesn't mean you have to fill it.
Yeah.
We sometimes we leave room for God's spirit universe to surprise you with something
Mm-hmm.
you didn't even know that you might be interested in or intrigued by.
Absolutely.
And so again, just because you could do something and you do maybe even have space to do it doesn't mean that you have to fill every single
Mm-hmm.
piece of that pie because you're like, oh well, I have this 34% over here. Well, leave it open for, a
Something
surprise,
else.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And when we oversay and overdo and overachieve, sometimes we're not the right fit for the role. And when I said no to that, it's not because I didn't want to do it. It's because I know that would have stretched me too far, and I wouldn't have been the right person to fill that hole. Because who am I to say yes to something just because I want to, but I didn't need to, because I would have overfilled my cup and I wouldn't have had time to give them what they were asking for and what they need out of a board member in this season of their life, of that agency's life. Could I have said yes to say I'm a board member on somebody's team? Cool.
That would have been so
But
ego.
that
That's
would have
all
been
that would have
so
been.
ego. And I see that a
Yes.
lot. I see that happen a
Mm-hmm.
lot in a lot of professions. That would have been so ego. That a party
Mm-hmm.
would be like, oh, that would have been really cool. But what they needed from me, I wouldn't have been able to give as much as they needed to be able
Mm-hmm.
to flourish in their agency. So I had to say no.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I don't want to lean too far into this because I know we're getting close to ending, and I
Mm-hmm.
have one more question I'm going to
Sure.
ask you. But I also think that especially as social workers, as women, we have a hard time saying no.
Mm-hmm.
One, it would have looked good on my CV, and I would have felt good being able to say I'm a this or I'm a that, right? But then the other wobble, the thing that makes us feel uncomfortable, is the saying no. I don't want to. Oh, they just
Mm-hmm.
asked me, so they must think so highly of me, and so I don't want to let them down. And so just because someone asked you to do something, we have a tendency to people please a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and so it makes it hard or difficult for us to say no because we don't want to let somebody down.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
So,
learning to do that is something else that's been part of, my purpose and what I'm building for myself is when you're building up a life that you want, opportunities do
mm,
come, but that doesn't mean they're always yours. And being
that
able
part.
to learn to say no and be comfortable with it, but also be able to communicate it effectively and give people explanations and reasons that are appropriate. It's been cool to say no as well as saying yes.
It's been relieving.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very relieving. So I so enjoyed this conversation, and my goodness, you threw some stuff at me that surprised me, and I love it when that happens. And so thank you for showing us what social work can be and can become. But before we hit record, me and you were talking about that kitchen table of yours. You would sit there, and I had the honor of, and still feel so honored of getting to supervise you to clinical licensure towards the last 3 months of your license.
Mm-hmm.
And so to still have this beautiful relationship with you just feels like a gift. But thinking about that, Tori, sitting at the kitchen table, coming to supervision every week for those last 3 months, What do you know about yourself, and or what would you say to that version of yourself 5 years ago that you just did not know was possible for her today?
What I would say to her, and like I envision myself sitting at that kitchen table, pushing through my supervision because there was a lot of change that was going on during that season of life. I would say to her kind of exactly what I said to myself at the time. Like, I don't know if I would change that. Is this sucks, but keep going. Like, this sucks right now. It doesn't feel good. And those decisions that you're making, having to say no to people, let people down, change my lifestyle, decide to make that first decision to do travel social work at the time. All that stuff was happening, end of a relationship, um, moving in with my parents briefly, deciding to take my first contract in Ohio. Who wants to go there? No offense, Ohio, but that's what I could afford at the time. And I was like, I would tell myself exactly what I said in the moment. This sucks, but you're making these decisions because you need to and want to, and this is going to lead to where you need to be. So keep going. I would tell her the exact same thing I told her because I really like where I am right now. It sucks, but keep going. You got it.
And you had it. And you absolutely have it. And I love that. That's, what we could tell those listening right now, like on the other side of this is something so good that you probably would have never been able to dream or imagine. So y'all just keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. So you're clinically licensed in those three
Mhm.
states? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm clinically licensed in Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, Alabama, Ohio, and Maine.
Awesome. Awesome. So if anyone wanted to work with you,
Hmm.
we can put the links for how they can, whatever platforms I know you're on, I think Alma.
I'm on Psychology Today,
Okay.
and I do my telehealth through Headway.
Headway,
Yeah,
yes. Okay, yeah. So we'll make sure that they have
those
those
links.
links on the in your podcast description, but
Hmm.
also they can just find you at Tori Helm at Psychology Today or Headway
Hmm.
if
Yep.
you're in one of those states. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And any final words you want to say to our audience?
Yeah, just if you're listening to this and you're in a season of life where, like I was, whenever I looked up and I was like, wow, I thought I was doing everything right, but it still doesn't feel good, be willing to make those changes, even if it feels crappy at the time and feels hard. Choose you and keep going with that. And you'll see the relationships that you do have in your life flourish. My relationships with my parents got better at that point. I talked to them every day and I loved them to death. My niece, my sisters, my grandparents, my best friends from home, even though I don't see them every day, my relationships with them are better than ever because I just started choosing me.
Mm.
So if you wake up and say, this isn't the life I wanted, be willing to make those changes if they feel right and keep going.
Keep going. Tori, that was beautiful. That was so beautiful. I love that so
You're
much.
beautiful. I'm so happy to have caught up with you today and just drop bombs on you because we haven't been able to catch up in a while. I'm like, wow, I've got so much stuff to tell her. So I'm really, really glad. So now I'm gonna have to I'll email you those links, but with those links, I'll send you some pictures of ceramics and maybe some gym stuff, and it's gonna be really cool.
I would
I'm happy to
love,
share that with you.
yes, please. I definitely love, and I love the gym story. It was such an unexpected twist. I love that. I love the gym story because I love when people, social workers in particular, get to combine the thing that they're passionate about with the profession that we love so much. And in doing that, that stretches what social work can be. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing. So thank you. So, Tori, thank you for taking time to share this conversation in this season of your life with us today. I appreciate your honesty, the way you spoke about growth, risk, and learning to move differently as you evolve. today was really about the person behind the work, and I'm grateful you let us see that. I really am.
Thank
And
you
so,
for
you
the
guys, this has
opportunity.
been the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again really soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. We are glad you were here. If you liked this episode, please come back to hear more stories of the journeys through social work, and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. See you next time here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.